Hey, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Today we're going to take a look at Reptilicus. I'm just kidding, it's Reptilicus. It's a giant monster movie, also known as a Kaiju, trying to compete with Godzilla. This is a Vinegar Syndrome 4K UHD release. A very impressive slip box, which we will look into later. Now, this is a 1961 film. So what happens in the movie, there's a group of Danish miners, and they dig up like this giant tail, giant reptile tail. And in the American version, which there's two versions, which we're going to talk about more in a minute, but in the American version, it's still kind of beating. You see some flesh beating, and so the miners start looking at it, and it's still got some blood and some flesh going on. And so they bring it back to this scientist lab where they put it in the freezer to store it. And it turns out eventually what happens, this creature is kind of like, like a lizard. Like some lizards, you cut their tails off and they regrow, but this is the tail, and instead of like just the tail growing back, like the whole freaking thing will grow back. Like if its foot gets cut off, that foot can grow a whole new, like, and what we're looking at is a big, almost like a dragon, like a flying monster, but it doesn't really fly. It just kind of like crawls around, but it has wings, so in theory, it might be able to fly. This was a Danish-American movie, and it's not just a combined. They actually had two versions. There's two versions on here, and much like the way that they did Dracula, they shot the American scenes with an American director, and then later on, like Dracula, they did it with Spanish, but then later on that day, the Danish director would come in and shoot his scenes Danishly. Just like the Spanish guy would come in and shoot his Spanish Dracula scenes, which is included in this as well. But it's very interesting just seeing the two different versions. And one of the actresses is played by a different actress. In the American version, she's blonde, and in the Danish version, she has black hair and she looks a little older. She's younger in the American version, so I'm not sure why all the actors are the same but that's just how it went down apparently. It has a very nice 60s vibe going on here. Now, a lot of the characters who you see on screen are military types or scientists, and they're very rigid acting, but you do see a little bit of the 60s styles with the women sometimes, and there's the Danish miner. In the Danish version, which is hilarious, there are additional scenes with him and one of the main scientist's daughter. He's trying to woo her, and they go to the beach, and there's some scenes that aren't all business, which is kind of a little bit of a relief when you're watching the movie. It's a little goofy too, but it makes it a little more interesting to me. And it kind of makes some of the characters seem, I guess, more human and less like, I'm this military guy or I'm this scientist or whatever. So, but it basically made them seem a little more human. And then you also got more of that 60s vibe going. And now there's also they handled the special effects differently in the Danish version than in the American version. And this is 1961, and the special effects look pretty good in a wider, medium wide shot, but they don't hold up to the scrutiny of a tighter shot. And a lot of times in the American version, they would like to go for that tight shot, and in the Danish version, they keep it wider. They keep it looking pretty realistic instead of going for the gruesome gore effects. And so it looks a lot better, and the acting comes off better in the Danish version than the American version. It may be just because they're speaking Danish. These are all Danish actors. The scenes are actually a lot better directed, acting-wise, especially in the first half of the movie. Now, nothing can be helped about once the monster shows up. The monster doesn't look very good. He's not convincing at all. It looks a lot better in the Danish version just because it's in Blu-ray and not UHD. It looks a lot worse blown up. Now, some of the scenes look pretty good in 4K. Some of them look really bad. In general, there's a lot of like red going on. It needed some color correction. But this seems like it was shot with a lot of different types of cameras, so it looks pretty uneven. But it looks better in lower. This is not one that really needed a 4K upgrade. It doesn't do it any favors. Maybe it brightens it up in some areas, which that's really the only plus to it. It does brighten up some stuff, but yeah, it makes all the effects look so much worse. There is fun to be had here. I'm not totally going to trash it. It is fun, but it is also, it has a nice flavor to it. You get that nice 60s vibe, and it has a lot of, there are a lot of monster movie cliches in here, but sometimes that is a little comforting to see. I'm going to take a quick look at the inside of this thing. So here's a slip cover that comes with it. Here you'd have the regular cover. Now there is a reversible. There's a reversible cover art here. Now this is the original. This is the original cover, which we'll flip it just to be different, because you have the slip cover on the outside, and then when you take that off, you see the original cover art. And this is kind of funny. On this cover art, they decided to put the picture of the guy. He in the movie, he's this kind of a caretaker character at the lab, and he wears like overalls. He's kind of a doofus, and it's funny. He's not really a main character. He's maybe in it for the first half of the movie, but then it stops showing him. But it's funny that they got such a big kick out of his character. They drew him on the front cover, just throw him down there in the bottom. So let's take a quick look at the disc. We have 3 discs, like I was saying before. There is the 4K disc, and there is a Blu-ray version, which is the Danish version, and then this is the US American version on a Blu-ray disc. And then it also comes with a poster, more of a diagram of the beast. It shows different stuff, like here's the tail that they originally find, and it says must consume calories on a massive scale in order to maintain regenerative abilities. I guess they put a little bit of thought into this poster. It's got armor. Something I didn't mention before, the armor kind of reflects bullets when they try to kill it, so it's really hard to kill it, as you know, the army people were shooting guns and bazookas and tanks. It's actually kind of impressive that they were able to get these tanks and a lot of army stuff in the movie. It makes it look pretty impressive, the amount of that type of stuff they have on screen. But the women are handled in a kind of funny way. Sometimes they're handled somewhat okay. But there's like a scene where they come in and tell the one girl that her dad had a heart attack. She's like, "Oh no!" Like real fake. Like, you know, it's like a really fake reaction. But a lot of times the women will be around and they'll know what's going on, and they'll be like, "Here's what we need to do," or whatever. And it takes a little while for the guys to listen. And finally they listen. They're like, okay, the women know what they're talking about. We need to do what they're saying. Or one point, like the girl's dad comes back in, and she's been trying to tell him the whole time about not to blow it up because it's going to regenerate. And the girl's dad comes in. He's like, "Don't blow it up. It's going to regenerate." And they're like, okay, we're going to listen to him because he knows what he's talking about. He's an older guy. Also, it's kind of funny in the American version, unlike the Danish version, they have to put a little bit of narration in there. It just pops in out of nowhere. It'd be like, all of a sudden it's like, and then like 3 scientists came and checked out the tail, and then they came back. You know, it's something, you know, just for no reason, they feel like they have to fill in some of the story gaps. And maybe it helps save some time. They're able to cut down a little thing. They're like, all right, these friggin' Americans are so stupid. They won't know what's going on unless we throw some like really like 60 sounding narration in there. Like, this is what's going on. Anyway, so this is Reptilicus or Reptilicus. I'm Dave Watkins. If you haven't done so already, if you could subscribe to my page and like this video. Thanks for watching.